Chaotic Shmoo, and I'm here to teach you about Dungeons and Dragons. This is the 3.5 edition tutorial series on character creation. This week I will be teaching you about experience points and feats. Now, I'm only going to cover the basics of experience points as a character, but in the future I will be doing tutorials on teaching you how to run the game, of which I will go into a much greater detail on experience points. Until then, let's get started. So what are experience points? Well, the book's definitions of experience points, also known as XP, are numerical measurements of a character's personal achievements or advancement. Characters earn experience points by defeating opponents and by overcoming challenges. At the end of each adventure, the GM assigns experience to the characters based on what they have achieved. Characters continue to accumulate experience points throughout their adventuring career, gaining new levels in their character classes at certain experience totals. Now, page 22, table 3-2, experience and level dependent benefits, shows here the different levels and their experience points that are required. Now, we're making a level 1 character, so it is literally just we start off with 0 experience points. Now, one thing to remember when playing and making a character, this is the only table that has the experience points. Doesn't matter what class or race you play, you have this experience points chart. This is what you go off of. There is no individual experience points per class or anything like that. Past editions have had that, 3.5 edition and 3rd edition, but 3.5 edition sticks with one table for experience points no matter what class or race you are. So again, level 1, we have 0 experience. We need to obtain 1,000 experience points in order to reach level 2. Now that's decided up to the game master as to how we get experience, whether it's through combat, whether it's through diplomacy, any other non-combatic situations or combat situations the DM feels you did a good enough job and you really showed effort to gain experience. What is a feat? A feat is a special feature that gives your character new capability or improves one they already have. Unlike a skill, a feat has no ranks. You either have the feat or you don't have the feat. They're not bought with any points. You simply just choose the feat. Each character gets one feat at creation, and then every 3rd level they get an additional feat. So that's 3rd, 6th, 9th, 12th, 15th, 18th. According to table 3-2 on page 22, what I just showed you for the experience points, it shows what level you get your next feat. So we have the 1st level here, we have the 3rd level here, we have the 6th level, and so on. So if you do ever forget or whatnot, page 22, table 3-2 gives you all your feats. Even goes into classes, skills, and all that kind of stuff. Ability points, when you get another one at 4th level, at 8th level, all that kind of stuff. Really good table. So feats are, like I said, you get them according to your character level. Some feats have prerequisites that they must be met before your character can take the feat. Additionally, members of some classes and some races get bonus feats as class features or racial traits. These feats may be chosen from special lists. For example, with our Logan here, being a human fighter, he gets feats for his 1st level for the creation. He also gets an additional feat for being human, and he gets the additional feat just at 1st level for being human. But then also, because he is a fighter, he gets another additional feat for a fighter bonus feat. Now, page 39 of the Player's Handbook, we have table 3-9 for the fighters. I've showed this before in past tutorials. And you see in the special column, the very last column here, we have bonus feat. So at first level, he gets bonus feat. Now that is the fighter bonus feat. And there is a select list of bonuses, fighter feats, that the fighter chooses from. Now for this, we need to scroll on down here to the feats, which is 90 and 91. If I zoom in here, you can see there are, I'm going to zoom way down here, there are some ones. Like on this point blank shot, there's a little one there after them. Those ones indicate that it is a fighter bonus feat. It can be chosen as a regular feat for other classes and stuff as long as you meet the prerequisites for it. But a fighter can take those feats as a bonus feat. I'll get a lot more into that when I go through. I'll go through an example of picking the feats and such. Now there are 3 different types of feats: fighter feat, which I just went over, item creation feat, meta magic feat. Now, meta magic feat and item creation feats, I'm not going to go into details about right now. Main reason is because it's all magic based, and we haven't touched magic. I have not gone through magic with you guys at all yet, so it's going to get really confusing, and a lot of stuff's you're not going to be able to understand any of it really, because I haven't covered it. And then there's a lot of terminology and a lot of rules and a lot of systems to it that won't make any sense. So once we learn magic and we get to the magic section of this tutorial series, we'll go back and I'll go into detail about the meta magic feat and the item creation feats. We're just going to move on to Logan and his feats. Since Logan is a fighter, he's got no magical powers, we're going to stick to the general feats and the fighter feats. Depending on the feat you pick can depend on how you want to play your character. A good example of this is we have the acrobatic feat, which, I'm going the wrong way, we look right here, acrobatic feat. It's a general feat, so you can't take it as a fighter bonus feat. It actually gives you +2 to your jump and your tumble checks. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're going to want to go back to the previous tutorial, number 4, where I talk about skills, because jump and tumble are skills, and that tutorial explains everything you need to know about skills. But if you want an acrobatic fighter, we'll say, or an acrobatic character, and you want to make sure you can make your jumps and get that extra boost on the jumps and that tumbling after you land that jump, you would want to take the acrobatic feat. That's just one example of the many different kinds of feats. I mean, we had the page here, 90 and 91, all these feats. There's a lot of them. And in other books, there's even more. But we're going to stick to the core books for now. But however, before we jump into getting Logan his feats, there are a couple feats that we want to make sure we get written down on the character sheet that comes from being a fighter. I'm going to move this away here, and we're going to pop up the character sheet here. Now the character sheet on the second page, where again we're using mythweavers.com to get this character sheet, is the feats and special abilities section. Now as a fighter, we get the feats of simple weapon proficiency, martial weapon proficiency, light armor proficiency, medium armor proficiency, heavy armor proficiency, and shield proficiency, along with a tower shield proficiency. Now these proficiencies aren't going to make much sense to you right now. We'll get to them actually in the next tutorial when we get into equipment and carrying capacity. So the proficiencies here that, like I said, we'll get to next week too in great more detail because they align with equipment. But what the basics of the actual feat themselves are is they are equipment based. every class has some kind of proficiencies in weapons. I'm not going to say the proficiency in armors because some don't. Magic-based users, some of the arcane users don't have proficiencies in armors. But they do have some kind of proficiency in weapons. Whether it's an actual or simple weapon proficiency or martial weapon proficiency, or it's an actual list of individual weapons that they can use. And those are what equipment you can use. Like I said, we'll get more into that in the next tutorial next week, Thursday. But so Logan gets all these feats as being a fighter. Fighters are a lot more diverse with their weapons and their armors and everything like that. They can pretty much wear any kind of armor. They can pretty much wield any kind of weapon outside of an exotic weapon. Exotic weapon example would be like a katana. Not really standard fighter unless you're like a samurai going to be using it. Or you're specifically trained in it, but then you need that exotic weapon proficiency feat. Let's get the rest of his feats now. Now that we have the fighter feats that come with it and his proficiencies, he gets 3 feats. Remember, 1 is for being human, 1 is for first level, the creation, and 1 is a bonus fighter feat. I would highly recommend, just like with skills, going through and just reading through the feats, because there's so many different kinds and there's so many different really cool combinations with feats that others play on, that they play on each other. A really good example of this is the feat that is called Spring Attack. Now we're going to set Logan up to get the prerequisites for Spring Attack, but he can't take it yet, because Spring Attack, as you see here, we have the prerequisites. Now, Logan being level 1, he doesn't have the base attack bonus of +4. He's only got the base attack bonus of +1. He does have the dexterity of 13 because he's got a 15. So he beats that prerequisite. That's actually the only one he meets right now, since we haven't picked his other 2 feats yet, and he's not level 4 to get that base attack bonus of +4. So, but this is a good example. See, now Spring Attack, when using the attack action with a melee weapon, you can move before and after your attack. Now that's providing your total distance is moved greater than your movement speed, which I'll get more into movement speed next tutorial again. Equipment plays a role in how much you can move with your armor and all that kind of stuff, so I'm gonna put that in the equipment tutorial next week. Along with moving his way doesn't provoke an attack of opportunity. Attacks of opportunity can get very confusing. It is part of the combat section. I will not be covering that until we get to the combat section stuff, because that alone is a good section of the combat tutorial. But it's an example of setting your character up to, as they level, they gain more of these prerequisites to be able to get that feat eventually. So at level 4, Logan will be able to get the Spring Attack feat to be able to move and attack. So just a quick basic combat information to help understand, well, I guess Spring Attack and how some of these feats can work with each other with combat and such, is your standard combat situation. Every round you get a turn. You can attack, move, and take a 5-foot step. That's the basics of your turn in a combat situation. You can either attack and then move, or move and then attack. You can't do move, attack, move, or attack, move, attack. So with Spring Attack, we're going to pretend that Logan is higher enough level to have multiple attacks for this example. So now Logan could use his Spring Attack, and he could move, attack an enemy, and then move and attack another enemy. And then if he's still got movement left from his speed, he can move out of the way again, or move to another opponent, or step in between, you know, and defend your support unit in the back or something. So he could move, attack, and then even move again if he wants to, depending on how much movement speed he has left. But it's a really fun way to do combat, actually. It's one of the feats I like to use quite often. They have one for melee, which is spring attack. They also have one for ranged, which is shot on the run. Very similar, just one's ranged, one's melee. But you have to make these prerequisites. So let's look at these prerequisites again. We have the dodge mobility feats we need, the dexterity of 13, which we have a 15. So we're good. Logan is good. And then the base attack bonus of +4, which you don't get until level 4 for a fighter. So now let's go look at these other two feats here of dodge and mobility. Let's just go in reverse alphabetical order here and scroll up and go to mobility. Now mobility requires dodge and dexterity of 13. Well, we know we meet the dexterity of 13 with our 15, but we still need a dodge feat. So before we even look at this feat, let's go look at dodge, which we scroll up here again, or page 93 for dodge if you have the physical copy of the book. Now the prerequisite for dodge is just the dexterity of 13. If you notice how some of the prerequisites stack on each other as they build up to the next, spring attack. So we have the dexterity of 13. So we can take dodge. But now what do these feats do? Well, dodge, you can read right here, during your action, you designate an opponent and receive a +1 dodge bonus to your armor class against attacks from that opponent. And you can select a new opponent at any action. Well, armor class, I've gone over a little bit of this, is the number that they have to roll, that number or higher in order to hit you. It's your defense. Well, you get a +1 if you're focusing on one enemy in unit in the combat. You get a +1 against that unit. A house rule I like to implement because I honestly think the benefit described here is bogus. Because honestly, if you're focusing on that one character, that one opponent, to get that bonus, that means you're not focusing on everybody else. Which technically, you should lose armor class bonus against everybody else you're fighting because you're only focused on that one person. So what I like to do, and again, this is just a house rule. It's not a core rule. It's an added rule. That +1 bonus is just a +1 bonus to your armor class because a skilled, trained adventurer is going to be aware of his surrounding. He's going to be aware of who he's fighting, not just one opponent, but all the opponents. So a house rule I give is when you take dodge, it's just an automatic +1 to your armor class. Not, oh, I designate this person, and then next turn I designate this person, or creature, or whatever you're fighting. So that's just a house rule that I like to play when I'm running the games. But so if we take dodge, I'm going to move this off here, and I'm going to go to my character sheet down here, and the feats and special abilities, and I'm going to just write in dodge. And then we're going to bring the player's handbook back out here, and we're going to scroll back down to mobility. Let's go back to mobility. Well, now that we have dodge and we have the dexterity, we can take mobility. Now, mobility, it gives you a +4 to your armor class bonus against attacks of opportunities. Again, I'm not going to go through attacks of opportunities yet because that is a whole section in its own of combat system that I will touch on in a later tutorial. But all you need to know right now is that it gives you a +4 to your armor class whenever you are in the situation where the opponent gets to make an attack of opportunity on you. So we're going to go ahead and write in mobility now in the character sheet. If I can spell it right. I forgot an I. I'm going to save that character sheet. So we're going to come back here, and now that we have these two feats, there's one special thing about mobility. I'm going to zoom in here, and we're going to see this special. A fighter may select mobility as one of the fighter bonus feats. Now this is good for Logan, because he has the 3 feats, 2 general feats, he can pick from, and 1 fighter feat. So this actually frees it up to where we can pick another fighter bonus feat or a general feat. Now, some fighter bonus feats are general feats. Most of them are. But it allows us to pick another fighter bonus feat if we want. So what I'm going to do, we have our 2 feats. We still need 1 more. But what I'm going to do is we're going to hold off. We're not going to use that last feat just yet. We're going to get the equipment and all that stuff set up first next week. And then we're going to come back to feats and we're going to pick a feat. The main reason I say this is because there is a special feat here that is a fighter bonus feat that is weapon focus. Depending on the type of weapon you have, there's no real restrictions on what weapon it is, but you got to have a weapon first. You take that and you get a bonus to your attack rolls whenever you're using that weapon. We're going to give Logan a specific weapon, whatever weapon that is next week, we'll find out. And then we're going to take this feat right here, the weapon focus. So as to we have the 2 feats we got, mobility and dodge. We're going to wait on getting the last feat until we get weapons set up. And the proficiencies, again, don't worry about them right now. Next week when we get into equipment, they'll make a lot more sense as we going into it, but it's pretty much just you're proficient with these types of weapons and these types of armors and shields. We'll get into a lot more next week when we go to equipment because they're really heavy equipment-based feats. This tutorial actually here, going through feats, is a really good example about last week how I talked about jumping around a lot in these tutorials and how confusing it can actually get because we jump around to a lot of stuff we haven't talked about yet because making a character and running the game, you do this. You jump around a lot. So a lot of stuff you'll touches each other and crosses over each other to where it's hard to explain everything at once. I mean, my tutorials would be like 5 hours long if I went over, you know, every single thing that Feats dabbled in, you know. So this is a really good example of how we jump around, and I just give, you know, there's a little bit here and there of combat, of feats, of how feats affiliate with combat, with skills, with magic. So it touches bases with everything. So to review for this tutorial, we talked a little basics briefly about experience points and what they are for the character. I'll do another tutorial when I get into running the game on experience points in more detail in the future. We also went over feats. We went in big detail about feats. Review them, go over them, figure out what combinations you can put together. Leave a comment below after you've looked at feats and tell me what good combinations you would like to make your character in, or if you've played before and you're watching this tutorial for some reviews, what combination of feats you like to put in your characters. If you have any other questions about the tutorials, about Dungeons & Dragons, again, please leave comments below. I will answer them the best I can. Till then, remember to hit that thumbs up button, like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and share this series with your friends. Help them learn with you. I'm Chaotic Shmoo, and I will see you next time.